We have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
You're very faint. I can't hear you.
Who is this?
It's the same
This is
person
Dana
that called.
Beal.
Oh, Dana. Hi. I thought we were going to Skype you in at 4:15.
Yeah, but your Skype thing didn't come up on my Skype.
Well, I have you.
Usually, it appears as a thing saying so-and-so wants to be your friend, in effect.
Yeah,
And it didn't show up when you did it.
I don't know. It's.
So I got no way of responding to
It's
something that doesn't show up. That's
WMNH.
the problem.
Oh, it shows up on our end. It has you listed as one of our contacts.
Well, I also tried to call the radio station Skype. Is that it?
WMNH, yes.
WMNH Radio is our Skype
MNH Radio.
with a space in between.
Well, nothing happened when I called it. You know, I let it ring a few times.
Well,
I mean,
we got you on now,
answered.
so.
Try it again. Try it right now.
See, this is really terrible because I cannot hear you. This happened yesterday. I could not hear what you were saying. It was like you were.
Can you call
speaking
him?
From a closet.
Is he high right now?
That's the way it is
He
now.
could be.
Well, do you want me to?
Is Evan there?
What did you just say?
Is Evan
You want
with
me
you?
to what?
No, Evan.
Do you want me to try? I'll try Skyping you right now and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay.
Hey,
All right. Hang up and I'll Skype you.
you go. Is he high right now?
He's always high.
Me too, though.
He's like the founding father of marijuana liberation. He's been put in jail and everything. He goes back to the 60s with it. They tried to levitate the Pentagon back in 1967.
So we're connecting with him on Skype. Dana, is that you?
Hello.
Yeah, that's good.
There we go. There we go.
Can you hear us?
Oh yeah, you for a minute there you were really distorting, but now you're normal.
Okay.
Dana, we have a young guy here, Christian LaCoss. He's a DJ.
Pause.
He wants
Pause.
to know if you're high.
Excuse me. Excuse me. No, we'll get to that after. All right.
Just an aside.
John, my last name is
I'm
LaCoss.
pretty normal, actually. I'm the way I.
Oh, I always
normally
think
am.
of it as look.
Well, okay. So we're a little bit early with
I have
you, Dana.
dyslexia.
But that's cool. So Dana Beal joins us. He is I referred to you online, sir, as a legendary cannabis activist, and looking forward to talking with you a lot about that. John Hopwood, of course, shared with me the fantastic write-up you got in the New York Times. Congratulations on that.
Yep.
I definitely should have read that before he came on the show.
There was controversy. You know, there's professional jealousy in academia, and it's actually in the pot world. There's a lot of professional jealousy, and people like who could promote each other, and the thing would get much further along, end up not liking something about somebody's style or something, and they just try to trip them up at every step.
There's a lot of feuds,
Yeah, but when did it end up happening?
like radio.
I brought the Ibogaine on kind of into the consciousness of the drug legalization movement, which was about pot, largely, in 1990, roughly. And they were promoting hemp, food, fuel, and fiber. Jack Herrera had a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes. And people basically said that, this has nothing to do with pot. Now, the very situation that, I foretold is once again coming to pass. You have a senator named Jeanne Shaheen
Yes.
who will not sign on to the MORE Act, claiming that, somehow if we arrest people for pot, they'll persuade their friends who are opiate users to quit. That's really what she's saying that, in some way marijuana leads. Now, actually,
It's a gateway drug. She thinks it's a gateway drug, which is not true.
Right. We have statistics in that show that states that
Legalized
medical marijuana and made it readily available, cut their opiate use 20%.
Like Colorado.
Absolutely.
And that's what we were saying. William Burroughs said this in Naked Lunch.
Back in
It's
1959.
old. It's old, right? But even though it's, a dusty
A
relic
hoary
again.
old myth.
So true. You know, it's-
Hoary.
and unfortunately, the obvious truth doesn't convince Jean Shaheen. So how do we get her to vote?
We
And
should
that's-
We dose her with
You know,
Ibogaine.
I said, well, you could like challenge them and say, if you're really sincere about, cutting the opiate crisis in half, I mean, wouldn't you rather have half an opiate crisis than a full-blown opiate crisis?
We should, Dana. We should take a moment.
Suddenly dwindle to half. Wouldn't that be better?
Dana, we should take a moment and just clarify for people, because you referred to the MORE Act. So what the MORE Act is supposed to do is, and just a little quick information here, the MORE Act, which was sponsored in the Senate by, at that time, vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris, would remove cannabis from scheduling, and because it's currently on Schedule 1, it should be descheduled, and it would expunge and seal previous nonviolent federal cannabis-related arrests and convictions for those who are not currently serving their sentences. So that's a little bit of what the MORE Act would do that Jean Shaheen will not support, as you pointed out.
Yeah, and it's just, see, the problem is Donald Trump says he will sign that bill.
But he's not president.
Joe Biden does not.
Yeah.
I followed Hillary Clinton around in 2016 with a 56-foot joint, all over the East Coast, all the way out to Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get her to at least talk to us so she would do a press conference with that little girl with the seizures and a couple of vets with chronic pain.
Yes. I know the little girl you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Right. So she would not meet with us. And she lost.
Yeah.
And the idea that marijuana should remain Schedule 2, that's the schedule for meth.
But you also believe that a lot of marijuana people vote for Gary
Marijuana is
Johnson.
Yeah.
a
You did.
therapeutically active
Not that year.
substance known to man. It has no LD50. You can't die from it. It is really great anti-inflammatory.
Oh, there's a lot of medicinal uses for it. Absolutely.
The thing that was absolutely unique, because they would say, well, take a Prozac or take a Vicodin. No, it does this third thing. It actually stops the inflammation in your bowel. If you have Crohn's or if you have HIV, that inflammation is what kills people. And if you can stop it by eating a brownie, it's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So there are situations where nothing else works as good as pot for medicine. But that's not the real argument. The real argument is that people deserve to have a healthful alternative to alcohol and cigarettes, which are taxed drugs.
And prescription drugs.
No, they're not just prescription.
Well, you're
They're
supposed
selling
to
these and they're saying,
prescription drugs
actually,
for
this
fun."
stuff is so bad. This stuff will kill you. And because of that, we're putting a tax stamp on it. And we're going to collect a sin
Since
tax.
1935.
Yeah.
Try to keep you from using it. So we come along with this stuff that doesn't kill anybody. It probably prolongs life about 4 years, right? It has all kinds of good effects when you get to be old, like being able to sleep at night. And it's harm reduction. For every single thing it replaces, it is a more benign alternative.
Yeah.
You see, that's not the point. The point is, I'm offended by
It's not a destructive drug.
saying that this has something to do
With
this opiate crisis, which is real. And we have something that we've given our lives. I've spent 40 years making this known to people of the world. You see, the reason that I was really recognized finally as a marijuana leader was the Worldwide Marijuana March. And that was because Rudolph Giuliani banned our annual pot parade in New York City that had been going on for 26 years.
Mark,
I didn't
my
know.
friend Mark Stern used to be at March in it.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the point is,
I smoked pot with Mark at BU.
it was not suppressed. And in fact, we went out to all these other marijuana organizations around the world and said, let's make this an international day of protest
Here
of
in
the
Manchester.
marijuana laws. And we ended up being, I think, at the top limit, about 312 cities coming out on the same day.
Oh, wow.
We had 100,000 people in London. We had 40,000 people. We still have people in Buenos Aires, right? It still exists. It's just that I went to prison for pot. And so there was nobody to coordinate it. But through this, because I wasn't that happy with the mainstream legalizers, always trying to basically push a heroin legalization as a priority over things like Ibogaine.
Yeah.
Ibogaine treats heroin addiction.
I used the Worldwide March as a platform to deliver this additional chip of information to marijuana activists everywhere, that there is this stuff. And, there's a lot of medical addicts, people who were put on Vicodin by their doctor, and now they can't stop.
Look at Rush Limbaugh.
Addiction is a worldwide problem. And
Should have smoked pot.
most people don't know that there's twice as much meth addiction in the world as there is opiate addiction.
Well, Dana, let me interject on that.
It works better for meth than it does for opiates.
Let me.
More like
I
50%.
want to just interject for a moment on one thing, Dana. That you had mentioned the opioid crisis or opiate crisis, something that's been a topic of conversation on this show a lot, and we've brought some people on who've discussed this with us. Is kind of refuting the idea that there's an opioid crisis, because that's kind of a buzz phrase that politicians like to use, but there's really a fentanyl crisis, because this idea that this idea that people are abusing opiates is kind of a
People
farce.
aren't abusing prescription opiates.
Right, exactly.
That's
the numbers,
bogus.
right? The numbers are
But
very small.
But the thing about the fentanyl is it's very tricky to detox from, because fentanyl messes with the heart. It's like one of those drugs like methadone or hydrochloroquine
Yeah.
that mess with the heart. And so you got to detox them, give them a regular short-acting opiate for a few weeks before you can even treat them with Ibogaine, which also is a challenge to the heart. So you got to really, really monitor it and do it in a medically supported clinic. And that's our main thing right now. In New York, we just found out our bill is going to go to the Assembly. We've got to get some people in the Senate.
You're talking about the New York State Assembly. Yeah.
Therapeutic Psychedelic Research Center that will actually administer different psychedelic drugs to people for, stuff that indicates that they would probably do well. Like somebody with suicidal depression probably needs some magic mushrooms.
Let's
Somebody
remember
with heroin addiction definitely needs some Ibogaine. And
Timothy
we want to
Leary.
be this stuff.
Timothy Leary was at Harvard with the man who became Ram Dass, and they were using LSD to treat alcoholism. Alcoholics.
Really? Oh, that's
all that research
that's
was.
the reason that it got shut down.
Yeah.
By the reactionaries, by the Trumpoid wing of the prison industrial complex. They were afraid this stuff is going to put us out of business.
Right. That's another thing we talk about a lot on the show is and in a broader context, the war on drugs. If we stopped locking up people, nonviolent drug offenders, quote unquote, the prison industrial complex would go out of business.
The states are they use drugs, the states, to get federal money. Mm-hmm. And when it comes up here to New Hampshire, every little community gets its chunk, and then Manchester, where we are, which has the brunt of the problem, gets so little.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's a scam. We're using the war on drugs to have Uncle Sugar rain some more money on, so we can buy police equipment and Bearcats and stuff like that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Now,
I understand.
Wait, Christian
you're
had something.
saying state-owned prisons, correct?
No, he's talking about private prisons.
Okay, good. I was about to say, because the majority of
Arizona and places
I'm
have
talking
private
about
prisons.
the
private prisons are a joke.
I'm talking about the people in the system Because I was
crime
interested.
makes money for a lot of people.
No,
Yeah.
I'm talking
I know.
about the people
Yeah.
who work
Not
there.
just the criminals.
It made
people
money
who
for me.
have-
I worked at a halfway house. I get that.
That's right. Yeah.
They
Employment.
have a belief system. They're very heavily into the 12-step. They do not believe that people should use substances at all.
Oh yeah.
They're for total 100% abstinence from everything. It's a little bit, they're a little bit one-sided, shall we say. And when they encountered these people doing LSD, they said this will cure alcoholism, but the people running the
drying out
AA
clinics.
No, the AA people said LSD is a drug. You can't be giving drugs, and they stopped Bill
Rehab
W. from
industry.
talking about LSD.
Huge.
Right, which
Yeah.
he was for, by the way. But right now we have a
You lighting
situation
up?
where we had a Ibogaine program at NIDA, and it was abandoned not because of any health concerns, but because they put the box in charge of the hen house. They put Rick Benkheiser, the maker of Suboxone, on the
geez,
clinic
yeah.
or on the panel that decided the fate of Ibogaine.
Suboxone that's what they use. Is that for heroin?
They use
addiction?
that. Yeah, they're using that in here in
Oh,
New Hampshire
at the
too.
methadone clinics, right?
See,
What happened was
pharmaceutical
the
industry
guy
wants
there,
to
I know
control
him. He's
Yeah.
a very nice guy. His name was Curtis Wright, and he was I have his picture. He's a smiling, hippie-looking guy. I know he had a Star Trek pin, right? So he was a good guy, and he was the one who told him it would be cool to let the genie of OxyContin out of the bottle. But then at the same time, he advised they not develop Ibogaine, which I thought was not good advice, and instead simply pursue Suboxone. Well, now all these people who were on oxys and they were on fentanyl are going to have, or they're having to go on Suboxone. And Suboxone is like the only drug
Approved. Yeah.
because methadone has a heart problem.
Okay.
And the problem is there's a lot of people for whom Suboxone is not strong enough. So these people back in that situation of having to do something because they have opiate craving greater than a certain coefficient. So that's about 40% of people who I guess I'll have to keep them on methadone
Oh, my
unless they can
God.
be treated with Ibogaine. And we're actually working on a protocol with ICERs in Spain right now to detox people from methadone using Ibogaine.
Well, yeah, because the people who go on the methadone, they stay on it for indefinitely in some cases, right?
Well, yeah, but the thing about the buprenorphine-based stuff, which is what Suboxone is that buprenorphine turns into a blocker when you get to be more than 35 milligrams, which is very inconvenient. And it also, the same molecule is from a substance called thebaine, which is like morphine. It's one of the alkaloids in the poppy. And thebaine has a 200-fold greater affinity for the receptor. So you remember the thing where they shoot the guy up in the heart and he sits up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That stuff is a blocker that seizes onto the opiate receptors without being an analgesic itself. So it doesn't slow down the heart too much.
John, what were you just showing? Because I
what's
They need, like opiate,
wait a minute,
and
Dana.
opiate doesn't work because of the yeah, go on.
I looked up Suboxone and I found out that Reckitt Benckiser, who makes it, had to pay $1.4 billion to
Nixon
settle
let
a
him off.
case for
Nixon-
pushing this drug illegally.
Trump let them off with $600 million.
Oh, you mean they? Because it was supposed to be a
Yeah, they
1.4
worked
billion.
Trump and they got $800 million taken off the fine.
Right. Once again, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want to talk about Ibogaine because it's got its own patented medicine that it's going to sell to New Hampshire and everyone else.
But the thing is, what's really terrible, and people don't understand this.
And
Imagine
illegally
the
marketing it.
only thing you could drink was Coca-Cola, and that was it. There were no other soft drinks. Root beer, ginger ale, get out of here. You only get Coca-Cola. And actually, you're kind of un-American, and you're kind of like making a ruckus in here, so we're going to have security escort you to the door.
I drink Moxie.
That's the attitude, And it's like this is the only thing you can
When
get.
you're old, you drink
It's so
it.
terrible because they're not.
Sorry,
doing the
John, I don't
formula
drink cough
for
syrup.
meth, and it doesn't work. It only works at 1 in 8 people, but they want that to be the only treatment for meth. And Ibogaine is better for meth than it is for opiates.
So why, Dana? I've never heard of until John started sending me information about you and your activism. I'd never heard of Ibogaine before. I know nothing about it other than what you've shared with us. Is that because is the pharmaceutical industry actively trying to suppress it? What's
Can't
that?
be patented.
In other words, there's NIDA is a small little research entity, and then there's this huge federal bureaucracy called SAMHSA that actually delivers all the drug treatment. And they're in the middle of a massive rollout under Biden to complete getting Suboxone to every single corner of the United States.
This was talked about on some of your
They
shows.
even put a provision. Listen to this. They put a provision in that bill that legalized psilocybin.
Right.
In,
Finally.
in Oregon.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was the other companion bill. But anyway, what it did was it took the money that they built up from the taxes on pot and dedicated that money to spending it on Suboxone.
What?
In other words, they had Ibogaine. They could have put Ibogaine in the bill along with psilocybin. It didn't happen.
Pharmaceutical lobbyists, they pass out the cash.
It was a guy named Graham Boyd. And he's an actual guy who's a friend of Ethan Nadelman. And these guys are at the top of the hierarchy at the Drug Policy Alliance. And, they have a strategy and they have a plan. And if you've been following the thing with Carl Hart and the controversy with the book that he came out where he said that recreational use of opiates is all right and shouldn't be stigmatized, then you see that why nobody is talking about Ibogaine, because you have people attacking it as unsafe, because all the people working on the rollout of Suboxone, which is a whole damn country,
Carl Hart's AstraZeneca
discussion of it. They're not going to tell you there even is an alternative to this drug they're putting you on for the rest of your life, because maybe you wouldn't go along with the rollout. You understand? So it is against the status quo drug that, like I said, you the only thing you can order here is Coke, right? No Pepsi. Then.
Right.
We'll have a shot in the morning.
Oh, just like in Saturday Night Live at the Greek diner.
Yeah.
No Coke, Pepsi.
Oh, right. Yes. I like the RC Cola myself. We're talking with.
Excuse me, I mentioned is Carl. I know about Carl Hart is AstraZeneca, but this is Carl Hart, a Columbia professor.
Oh, okay.
An African American who has taken opiates and he's been a heroin user.
So we're talking with Dana Beal, who's an activist.
That's a sexy message too. That's what you have to understand. It's hard to when they decided they're going to, cover that as the story about drugs this month. It's hard to get a discussion going about an alternative.
Oh yeah. absolutely. Let me just, Dana, let me just give the number in case anyone has a call for a question, rather. 603-250-6007. If you have any questions or comments or input for our guest, Dana Beal, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. Tweet me at Matt Connarton, or shoot me an email, matt@mattconnerton.com. But we are talking with Dana Beal, who is, I see you referred to online as a yippie. What exactly is a yippie, Dana?
Well, yippies were basically just hippies who'd been beaten up by the cops.
Okay.
At anti-war demonstrations.
Gotcha.
Did were you with Abby Hoffman found it?
We stopped the war in Vietnam.
Yes. Well, there you go.
It would probably be going on like our wars.
Something as a follow-on, and within a year or two, we'd started these gigantic marijuana marches.
Yeah.
And that led to, the whole high time scene. And then after the founder of High Times committed suicide, there was a kind of a series of events where they tried to promote heroin chic. This is the same as, today with Carl Hart. And we said, no, wait a minute. We did these protests against the CIA dealing heroin. And heroin is not cool. It's not the same as pot.
Right.
You're not going to be able to just do this and necessarily not become addicted. And, it is not the same as Coke, is what we said. It's not even the same as Coke. It's like you have a much bigger problem with addiction liability with heroin than you do with cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
People can do a little bit of Coke from time to time and not really develop great craving for it. I, for instance, during the period of time in the 70s when Coke was everywhere, had a simple strategy. I wouldn't pay for it. So I got very little.
Right. Right.
Can I just ask Dana a quick question about the yippies? In 1968, Dana, did you vote for Pegasus?
No, I was actually in Canada at the time. I got back in '69.
You didn't vote for Pegasus?
What is Pegasus?
You've never heard of Pegasus?
Is it like a Pegasus with a pig's head?
You could have maybe written Pegasus in.
It was a large pig that the
Abby and those guys
yippies
were
nominated for president.
Oh.
They were sensitive to the charge that they helped Richard Nixon get in, which was a nightmare.
I don't know. I might have voted for Pegasus this time.
And so they didn't want a third-party actual vote for a pig.
Because they're pigs.
Because they figured nobody would actually vote for the pig, but that they were making a statement about the system.
Well,
I've seen people vote for Mickey Mouse. I had a recount on my election. You'd be surprised that fictional characters are popular, as write-ins.
I think we need to revive Pegasus. I like the idea.
I wonder if he can't be still alive.
Oh. Surfaced again, I think, in about 2003. We were trying to get speaking gigs as yippies. Then Stewie Albert died. Stewie Albert had hepatitis C ultimately. And
saved him from becoming a pork chop.
He was like, there weren't any of the original people left except Fass. Well, no, that's not true.
You're the last yippie?
Krasner died relatively recently. And Krasner
yeah, that's right. Paul Krasner.
He came up with the guy that we showed that Ibogaine works for Parkinson's disease on.
Oh, wow.
Patient. Yeah, Ibogaine regenerates dopamine neurons so that, it works for Parkinson's like the same way it works for crystal meth. In fact, crystal meth craving is related to Parkinson's because eventually, if you're in that deficit, you get a Parkinsonian type effect called Parkinsonianism.
Yes.
From meth, from just doing meth. It also gave Dennis Perron a stroke, right, by the way. So it's really, really bad meth. We're trying to do something about it. And the main thing I could say is, the people in the audience, if you get a hold of Jean Shaheen, urge her to, sign on to Rick Doblin's letter to Eric Garland and
Who's the
Joe
U.S.
Biden.
Attorney General?
Asking how a drug that has zero abuse potential, and according to Curtis Wright, remember I was talking about Curtis Wright, be in the same schedule with a Schedule 1 drug. Because Schedule 1 drugs, by definition, it's like crack and crack spots. You understand? There's a drug traffic. It's out of control. They're taking over the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's Schedule 1.
Yeah.
Ibogaine is, people don't even like to take it again. It's like gives you car sickness. It's the same as overdosing on cannabis.
Okay. So there's no
I've
risk.
never overdosed on cannabis.
So you can overdose on cannabis.
Yeah, you still can.
I just
Right,
pass
holding
to a dream.
big hit from a dab. You'll be sorry. You won't be able to get into a car for 2 hours without puking.
This is like Tommy Chong.
No.
and,
That's-
With that
I want to
huge-
go down a road real quick.
Yes.
What doesn't make it a gateway drug if you can overdose on it?
Oh, come on.
No,
it's
no.
Not, it's
Stop.
somebody a
Stop. I wanna
gateway
know.
drug to heroin.
I don't care. I wanna know.
Heroin.
I wanna know.
The term you're using
What
is
doesn't
not
make
right.
it? Listen, I'm not against weed, but I want to know what doesn't make it a lethal drug if you can overdose on it.
Oh, lethal drug. I
The
thought
only
you said
reason that it was in any way.
it does give you breasts.
Are you talking about Ibogaine or pot now?
Pot. You said you can overdose on pot.
Yeah, you can't, but only in a dab. You got to take a concentrate. Or edibles.
I can assure you. I've never
yeah.
overdosed on a dab. But okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think I understand. I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
When Mark made those cookies, he put too much. That was back 40 years ago.
Oh, okay.
God, we had to chew stuff down.
So just for clarification purposes,
Something on Cheech and Chong.
So when we're talking about overdosing in this context, we're not talking about overdose where you die. We're talking about an overdose where you just you get in over your head, and
But you just wish that the physical symptoms would go away.
yes.
I can assure you, I have never overdosed off a dab, but that's okay.
But that does happen with edibles. Absolutely.
Particularly if they're not baked right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Using cookie dough back in 1979. and terrible Colombian.
Right. Now, Dana, as a cannabis activist, how do you feel about where we are in terms of, obviously a lot of states have legalized? Here in New Hampshire, we can't quite get past decriminalization. But does where we are now feel like progress to you, or are you frustrated?
I'm not going to jail for pot.
Right.
But could he hear? No, it's
That's
decriminal.
progress.
Yeah. But obviously, we have a long way to go. I mean,
I'm on a list of people they didn't like.
Are you?
That's an understatement.
Are you optimistic that because I have been saying.
Well, I'm really, in a way, really worried about one thing.
Okay.
I'm worried that Trump is actually running for re-election and that he has a chance of winning because he has 40 million lemmings.
40 million, 70 million.
I think he's got about 75 million, but
only 70%.
Oh, we just got a message. They were hash brownies back in 1979.
Other 30% of Republicans are not, and they may have voted for him because he was the only Republican on the ticket.
Yeah, but
they're not necessarily supporting him now. Now, I would like to see John Boehner run.
Oh,
he's a reasonable guy. He comes off.
I've interviewed him. He's a really reasonable person.
Yeah.
I'd rather see John Huntsman.
Well,
but he's disappeared.
A lot of these people seem more reasonable than they did at one time, certainly. But
he's too conservative for me. But
yeah,
not.
But just remember, Trump is running as an avowed putschist. When they talk about the insurrection, that was not an insurrection. To call it an insurrection dignifies it. It was a putsch. It was like 1923. Some fucking off-duty army guys, some unemployed policemen who decided to have a big march and try to seize City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
With help from inside.
Mussolini did, basically, in 1923. and all this stuff happened. There was a big wave.
Schicklgruber.
Man was big then too. It was a big wave of kind of fascist groups and organizations that appeared in a bunch of countries around the same time, and different things happened. But in Germany, unlike Italy, some cop shot the person next to Hitler. It was like what happened to Ashley Bobbitt.
That's right. The police fired on them.
Right, and it broke the spell, right? So that same thing happened, and the Nazis built a whole mythology around, the person that got shot and the flag that had the blood on it, and it was all part
That's
of
actually policing policy in a mob.
they used to take over in 1933. But we know that if Trump gets back in, it's like Hitler getting in 1933. It cannot be allowed to happen. Now, marijuana has a role to play in this. But I think that it should be pointed out that I did go to Roger Stone because
I know him too.
Randy Critico.
Yeah.
And I asked him to do something about Ibogaine, and he refused to talk to me. Now, when we took it to Chris Christie's Opiate Commission, they refused to take testimony from our experts, Drs. Alper and Camlet.
Yeah.
They refused to even entertain Ibogaine, and they came out for Suboxone, the same.
Yeah.
Which is being backed by a big pharma company that's getting fined.
Which is the same as Biden. See, it's also the same as the Drug Policy Foundation.
Yeah, they spread the money around.
The same as everybody, except this kind of renegade group that says, no, we want to try the Ibogaine.
Right.
Prior to this, it being only Pepsi, right? So, what you can do is, if you are in the sound of my voice, get back to me. I'm at IDB1947 at Gmail. Those are my initials, Irvin Dana Beal.
Okay.
My first name is Irvin. Nobody knows.
Oh, we got a scoop.
The point is, 1947. I was born in 1947, and it's Gmail, so it's very simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can email me if you're interested in Ibogaine. If you want to do something about Gene Shaheen, I think
want
we
to
should
come up
start a
here.
little movement to do some demonstration or something outside Gene Shaheen's office in.
Levitate her office. It's right. It's right down from where we are.
Let's talk about that.
Levitate her office.
How does one levitate?
How does one levitate the
I got
Pentagon?
a guy who does street theater from Boston who will come up.
Oh, all
We
right.
need Guido Sarducci.
Actually, we have our own public protest expert right here in New Hampshire. His name is Dave Ridley, and he could probably help us with this.
He's supposedly.
Oh yeah,
libertarian.
definitely. He could get one person to stand right in front of there.
That's
He
right.
could
And
play Abby
a,
Hoffman.
But let me ask you. I want to ask
And
you.
a towel. Call it good.
I want to ask you this, Dana, because you talked
Put a
about
pot leaf towel and call it good on him.
you talked about Trump earlier, and you did mention Joe Biden, and I wonder. And by the way,
You didn't vote. Did you vote for Joe Biden?
I did vote for Joe Biden.
Oh, okay.
But I'm a little bit. Well,
You didn't vote for Hillary.
I'm very no. I voted for Gary Johnson in
That's right.
2016. But I'm very discouraged by. And by the way, I give Biden an A+ on pandemic response, but I give him an F so far on cannabis. I'm very discouraged that with the Biden administration, a lot of this progress that we've made is kind of coming to a halt.
And I bet he
on
inhales.
cannabis.
No. He's not even a year in
On
yet. though.
Ibogaine,
No.
his
Seems
son
like it.
took Ibogaine. Hunter took Ibogaine.
Oh,
If it was so good for him, why can't the rest of people get it?
right.
That's a
Right.
strong.
Because it's
quote.
not.
I want to know
Doesn't get
where he
big
got that
fun.
Why
from.
is it Schedule 1 if it has no abuse potential? It has to have high abuse potential.
But it's
to
a
have been inducted
psychedelic.
into the Hall of Fame to begin with.
People are afraid of psychedelics.
Yeah,
I mean,
I am.
they're starting to use MDMA treats PTSD. I have PTSD. I know people that have been treated now. People have used ayahuasca and other stuff.
There's a Time article that came out about a Navy SEAL who's now giving Ibogaine to other Navy SEAls in Tijuana.
Oh yeah, because it's horrible. They're you
Yeah.
know what they have to do and what they've been through, and the memories.
Well,
You know.
Ibogaine helps you to reevaluate memories.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And process memories, right.
Oh, okay.
Process and deal with them.
Huh.
It
Are you
enables
smoking
you
a
to.
joint right now on the radio?
I hope not.
Oh, yeah, he wasn't on my show. Why? It's legal.
Yeah.
It's legal in New York.
Right.
It's legal to sell, too.
It's
And grow and sell.
It's fully legal in New York,
Oh,
right?
yeah, they just signed the bill.
And you can
Well,
actually
it's
smoke
not-
in public.
It's not, they haven't promulgated the regulations. We're trying to introduce an
Oh, geez,
ordinance
we get Elizabeth Rupp on
to
here and
turn
talk about
vacant city-owned property
played
over to,
acupuncture.
cooperatives that would like grow the weed and keep it out of the hands of big pharma.
So
Big Pharma is, you know,
yeah.
it's got its sites up in Canada and in the States.
So Jenny is asking in the chat room, Dana, do you have any hope for a federal change on cannabis? Do you have any hope that?
Well, I think that if like Charles Schumer actually sends this bill,
He went to the pot march you were at.
Bernie Sanders like said he was going to sign an executive order
Who sat on
on
the cat?
January 21st, if he became president, to order that the Attorney General remove marijuana from Schedule 1.
Mhm.
Well, if he can do it with marijuana, which millions of people are partying with and, you know, thumbing their nose at the government at the same time, they can do it for this legitimate treatment for heroin and methamphetamine addiction, which actually doesn't have a lot of abuse potential, except that microdoses is good for Parkinson's patients.
Yeah.
And we got to keep those Parkinson's patients
Well,
sick.
we haven't legalized it here in New Hampshire with our 400-person citizen legislature that's supposed to be so close to the people.
Well, but they did pass it, but then the governor, our governor here,
How many times?
Sununu, at least once vetoed it.
Did Shaheen ever have to deal with it? No, they never got close.
I'm not
during
sure.
her government.
Under Hassan, they did, I think, right? And then she vetoed it.
She vetoed it too.
I believe so.
You ought to go after Maggie. Well, I think Maggie Hassan's not supporting this bill.
She's very pro drug war, or she has been in the past.
Today I got notification that the bill that ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition, is sponsoring with Linda Rosenthal, the chief of the Substance Abuse Committee of the New York State Legislature, is been approved for assignment of a bill number.
Oh, good.
And at that point, it'll be listed, and we can push it all over the state of New York, and it would create an ibogaine clinic right here in New York City. That would be a variation with the federal status at that point, and we're going to have the governor is going to have to be enlisted to negotiate on behalf of the state of New York, because we want our ibogaine. Ibogaine was invented here by Howard Lotsof. Norma Lotsof is still alive on Staten Island. She is an African American lady.
Well, it wasn't invented in New York. It's from
African
Africa.
Cure for African rainforest cure for drug addiction. She's still alive.
Yeah.
And Big Pharma is ripped her off, and is basically going to make billions of dollars, and she's going to get nothing unless we intervene. And we're going to intervene on that one because it's not right.
By the way, Melanie in the chat room was asking, did you say that methamphetamine doesn't have a lot of abuse potential?
No, methamphetamine is a terrible drug.
Okay.
Ibogaine doesn't have a lot of
It's ibogaine you were referring to. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So are you, is ibogaine kind of your main focus now, or are you still actively
I'm very excited about the fact that this guy can get his hands on ALD-52.
And what
because we could use ALD-52 to deprogram Trumpers.
I don't think there is any. Good luck.
No, we actually believe I have a syllabus, and with ALD-52, we can bring people back from the rabbit hole with Q.
Yeah, you think so? Has it been used to deprogram members of other cults?
It could deprogram any cult.
Wow.
really amazing psychedelic drug.
Yeah. Well, okay. All right. Well, we'll maybe someday we'll get to test that out. I don't know, but are you frustrated? Are you discouraged with the Biden administration because they don't seem like
you can get stuff out of them if you push and you're disciplined.
Yeah.
If you get elected representatives and senators on board.
Yeah.
I think we have a shot at getting Biden to actually deschedule Ibogaine, which would be huge because you got to understand in places like Afghanistan, the main thing that works against Ibogaine is a Schedule I drug in the United States. I mean, you can't exactly send a DEA agent into Afghanistan to bust a bunch of people.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
We are about to start an Ibogaine clinic in Kabul.
Oh,
So
wow,
we're going to be able to like help people there. This is coming from South Africa, so it's not really seen as being a U.S. initiative.
Okay.
And we're going to be able to help people in the worst heroin spot in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you ever see the video? There's like 1,500 people living under this bridge, smoking and injecting heroin.
Where is
downtown? It's like a human cesspool.
In Afghanistan?
In Afghanistan?
Yes, and right in the middle of Kabul.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Yeah. And they cleared it out and put them in a army base somewhere. And the next morning there were 1,500 more people.
Wow. Jeez.
Oh, that's right. All heroin came out of Iran and Afghanistan back in the 60s and 70s.
Well, in Afghanistan, I mean, that's kind of what their economy is based on, isn't it?
Well, it's opium.
Right.
Yeah.
We want to see if we can have a crop substitution and have them make that fine Afghani hash. They can make more money off Afghani hash. Opium is a drug on the market. Like a guy says, in these diamonds, everyone has diamonds. Diamonds are a drug on the market.
Well, Dana, we're actually coming up at to the top of the hour, so we'll begin to wrap up with you. But what do we need to know? I'd love for you to please give your email address again, and anything else we need to know as far as resources online. I don't know if you have a website you'd like us to know about, but just anything like that we should know before we wrap up with you today.
No, I do put stuff up on my, I think stories that are important on my Facebook in the morning.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
But, I'm doing some stuff. We got to, see if we can get Jean Shaheen to sign this letter.
Absolutely.
We get the senators to sign on to the letter. And I talked to Carol Maloney, who's a representative, and I've been in touch with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Mm-hmm. Well, the House already passed it.
Well,
it already passed about marijuana legalization.
No, I'm talking about the Ibogaine thing.
Okay, well, Jean Shaheen is about as opposed to legalizing marijuana.
We got to overthrow this Suboxone monopoly, man. It's immoral. And basically, the people in Afghanistan cannot afford Suboxone. The country is dirt poor. Mm-hmm. So they get nothing because it's got a bad name, because it's Schedule I in the United States. Everybody's afraid of it, like, ooh, I'm going to get busted. No, man, this stuff should be available now. It belongs to begin with, it's the birthright of every African American. It is the African drug. From South America, you've got Yaje, you've got like ayahuasca, right? Which is basically like short-acting Ibogaine.
Okay.
Not as focused.
Ayahuasca is short-acting? Come on. How long does Ibogaine work for?
Ibogaine lasts like longer than 24 hours, man.
Okay.
You mean you're going to go on a vision quest longer than 24 hours?
Yeah, that's why
ayahuasca's heavy duty.
Ayahuasca lasts about 6 hours. And, you get some of the same stuff. You get nausea, you puke.
And like, how, huh?
It's classed. Cannabis, ayahuasca, and Ibogaine are kind of all in the same class.
Well, there's ayahuasca. There's the churches where it's used as a sacrament. And Massachusetts, there's an Ibogaine church.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to get a hold of the Ibogaine church in Massachusetts.
I'll find out the information by next week. I'm going to Mass tomorrow. I'll be in
Provide
the
it.
area.
Because people need it. People, like you said,
I
don't
don't
know.
do psychedelics.
Right? They don't
Already
know that
crazy.
it exists. If people knew it existed and knew what it did, everything would change.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about Shaheen, we have to just refocus you. She's against marijuana.
Right.
You know, going beyond that, you know, if you talk psychedelic to her, God, she might drop her dental plate. It might pop out of her mouth.
Ibogaine is different. Ibogaine is about detoxification.
Yeah, but
41% of people who take it walk away from opiates for the rest of their life.
you know that, and it's reason. But where does reason, politics?
Well,
Isn't
the
it-
question is, do you want to coddle the opiate crisis? You want to keep it around like a homeless person who's crashed in your garage?
Yeah,
Or do
I
you
think
want to
some
get
of them
rid of
do.
the opiate crisis? Because you can get rid of it. You just have to bite the bullet and say, yeah, there's some interesting fireworks when people take this stuff, but we'll just kind of ignore the fact that they're tripping
I
because
think.
it gets them off the dope.
But see, I think that you were right when we were talking about marijuana, that you were going to use marijuana nationwide to prevent Donald Trump getting reelected. Of course, the Ibogaine is going to be used to reprogram the Q people.
He's going to use that. There's a lot of right-wing pot people. You got to understand.
There are.
70%
really
of
are.
people
South Dakota.
support pot.
Legalized
And the
it.
people
Yeah.
from the Republican Party who are
Such
in
a
favor
tax
of
cop.
pot are all libertarians. And everybody knows the libertarians are crazy.
Well, Gary Johnson was high during one of his speeches, wasn't he?
Was he? I did vote
We
for.
were watching something. He was it looked like he was high.
Oh wow. Well, maybe he was.
You've forgotten because
Yeah.
that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I do.
There was an MSNBC appearance where I think he was high.
that
but-
was it. Yeah.
By the way, I did just get an email from Senator Shaheen's office. They were scheduled for an interview, but she has to reschedule. She's having some dental work done. But anyway.
No, she goes on the morning show.
Oh God. All right. Well, listen, Dana Beal, thank you so much for joining us today, sir. And again, congratulations on that big New York Times write-up. That's very exciting. And
Well, now we have to do similar, even bigger write-ups.
Yes, absolutely. Well, now that you've been on this show, you get the big Matt Connarton Unleashed bump.
Well, have people get in touch with me, man.
Yeah. Give
Number is 347-343-1791. Now, you may remember that in 1791, they cut off the head of the King of France.
Okay.
And I was actually from that faction that said the U.S. Constitution should be amended in the case of Donald Trump for one time. Bring back the guillotine.
Wow. Well, they did have one.
They get but this would somehow override the provision where you can't really have a bill of attainder.
Well, we're against capital punishment here.
We actually might need a bill of attainder from time to time.
I just want to say I don't want to get myself in trouble, so I just want to publicly say I personally am opposed to putting the former president in a guillotine. But on that note, all right, Dana Beal. Oh, please too.
What
give
about
your,
in a gibbet?
a
just
gibbet.
hang him.
Phone number 347-343-1791.
And what's your email again?
IDB 1947.
Wonderful. All right, my friend. Very nice to speak with you today, and thank you so much for joining us.
And you'll be on Norm in a couple of weeks.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Just get in touch.
All right, Dana.
Find me that
I will.
And email me back.
And when you're on Norm's a psychic. He can tell you the future of the legislation.
Oh, very exciting. Yes. You'll be able to learn if you have any speeding tickets coming up. Okay. Very good.
Take care, Dana.
All right. Thanks, Dana.
Okay.
All right. There we go. Dana Beal. Wow. Big guy. No, he's, man, I was reading up on him. He's a legend. But, yeah, I had never even heard of Ibogaine before. But apparently you can do a lot with it. Well,
My friend Mark Stern, who's called in before, he's called in my show, and he probably called in your show when you used to have the public access show, says Ibogaine is this big thing now, because Mark used to march with him, with the yippies, to legalize marijuana, which at the time I never thought marijuana would ever get to this point.
Right.
Because of the irrationality of politicians.
Yeah.
They're irrational. And they use it, these issues. What if they didn't have the war on drugs? They'd
Yeah.
have to make something else up, right?
That's
It's like
true.
Thomas Jefferson allegedly said, if there was no God, we'd have to make one up. You know, because it's such an effective
I didn't know.
tool.
I didn't know Jefferson had said that. That is a great. That's a great.
They
quote,
use
though.
somebody probably against Jefferson because they always called him an atheist. His political opponents made it up. Like many great quotes turned out not to be real.
I know of something else that is attributed to him that
It's not real.
is not necessarily real. Well, let's. It is the top of the hour. Let's take a break. I'm going to play something, and then we'll show some love to our sponsors. And then, are you sticking around?
Sure. I'll go
Ju-
find my grandson.
All right. Yeah, Christian had a phone appointment he had to get to, so hopefully he'll be back before the end of the show. But he had an important call about some business.
Hope he
that
doesn't
had
lock
to-
himself up.
Yeah, I'll message him. I'll make sure he has the code to get into the building. But anyway, so we will take a break. More Matt Connarton Unleashed coming up. Don't go away.